We have an amazing music program. We are so blessed. So this month we are exploring spiritual laws. We are in spiritual community, and so we ask the question, well, how is that different from other communities? And one of the things that makes it different is we come together to practice spiritual laws. So we talked about the one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence, and that means to call forth the good in the universe and in our lives. Last week we talked about the spiritual law of faith and the law of mind action and how faith is an important piece in the manifestation of our dreams. And as fits with our vision statement, may we all be spiritual catalysts that help to ignite not only our own faith, but faith in others. So I don't think we can get very far along the spiritual law path without stopping and spending at least one Sunday talking about the spiritual law of love. Now, what's interesting to me about the spiritual law of love is it's in every single religion. It is a common denominator. It doesn't matter which religion you choose to study and worship with, love is going to be there. So as I was looking at the different religions this week, I want to start with Buddhism, because Buddhism, I think, is one of those religions that practices love and practices loving kindness. They've got it down. I mean, they've had it down for thousands of years. It is such an amazing practice. And the Buddhists see love not so much from the personal perspective, but from a higher perspective of witnessing and of practicing loving kindness and compassion and being detached about it. I was also looking at Judaism, and one of the scriptures in Judaism is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And I know we attribute that to Jesus, but Jesus was quoting the Jewish scriptures. He was quoting the Old Testament. Also, in Judaism, in Hebrew, there's a word called chen, C-H-E-N. It means grace, kindness, goodwill, steadfastness. So it's another word for loving kindness. So we see a thread from Judaism to Buddhism. We see the teachings of love in Islam. We see it in paganism. We see it in the Baha'i faith. The Baha'i faith says that it is love that is behind everything, and the manifestation of the world is the manifestation of love. Charles Fillmore said that it was the great harmonizer and the great healer in the universe. And Christianity, of course, speaks to love. In fact, it was Jesus's, we just sang it. The gospel in one word is love, really. And he talked about, the kingdom of heaven, and he talked a lot about a lot of things. But when Jesus was about to be crucified and go through that whole thing, he knew that his time was limited. He'd done his ministry for 3 years, and it was about over. And he knew that he had to get his point across. And so the service, the Maundy Thursday service, is in a dedication to that evening, to the Lord's Supper. Maundy means commandment. And what Jesus was wanting us to know was there was one commandment that we had to really pay attention to, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. Not only just love the Lord your God, but to love your neighbor as yourself, and to love one another as I have loved you. That night on the Lord's Supper, the night of before the crucifixion, he washed the feet of the disciples. And while he was washing the feet of the disciples, he's humbling himself. He's getting down on and he's serving them. And this is a very humbling thing to do. And of course, Peter was like, no, you're not going to wash my feet, because, you're my teacher. You're the rabbi. You're not going to wash my feet. And that's when Jesus said, well, if I can't wash your feet, then I don't want anything to do with you. And of course, Peter flips out and says, oh, no, wash my hair, wash my hands, wash, whatever, take me. So I always see Peter as the Aries in the group, he just, he always says what he's going to say. But his point was that that no one is better than anyone else. No teacher is higher or lower, or we're all equal and we're all the same. And so his point was that we need to serve each other and that we need to love each other. And he was trying so hard to get that point across before his ministry was over. I see that love is operational under all spiritual laws, no matter which one it is. So when we say that God is good, well, that means God is love, and love is what is manifesting in our life. I love the word that James Tierney suggested to me a couple weeks ago, which I shared last week, which is pronoia. Pronoia being that what if the universe was conspiring to bless you? What if the universe was conspiring to bring good into your life? How would your life be different when you look at all the events that have happened to you, that it's like, well, maybe this was like, a blessing to me. And as we call forth the goodness in the universe, it's pronoia instead of paranoia. We teach in Unity that the Spirit of God is within each one of us. And of course, the law of love fits there as well, because love is what we are. We have come from love, and we are the embodiment of love. Love fits into the law of mind action, because how better to manifest your dreams than through love? Remember that book, Love, Do What You Love and Money Will Follow? What we love is like a magnet that draws to us our good. That's how we need to put our passion and our love in our dreams and those things that we're pursuing, because it's a magic force in a sense almost that just calls all this good. And I know that we throw the word love around like crazy. We love pizza, we love our car, we love our work, we love our dog, we love our partner, we love our family members, we love our dreams. There's so many different things that we attribute the word love to. You think that we would have different words for it, like the Eskimos with the word snow. They have all these different words to describe different kinds of snow. You think that in our language that we would have different words that we use commonly to describe love. So the scripture actually does point out the different kinds of love. There is the love between a parent and a child, and although scripture doesn't say it, I'd say there's also a love between, you and your pets, your dog or your kitty or whatever. Another love that is pointed out in scripture is eros, and eros is sexual love and passion. And when we turn on the radio, what do we hear? Eros, like 90% of all the songs, and don't get me wrong, Eros is great, but it seems like we spend a lot of time in that part of love, where we're singing about it in the country western songs, and it's like, oh boy, you're either breaking up or getting together and dancing through a field, and it's great. The Bible also speaks to philo, like Philadelphia, brotherly love, community, which is what we're creating here, the community of love and compassion and charity and service to one another. And then the highest love, of course, is agape. Agape is the unconditional love which we get from God and strive in our human relationships to be agape-like, but really it's spirit. When Jesus was resurrected, he came back and he was talking to Peter. And if you remember, Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Remember the Garden of Gethsemane, when Jesus was being arrested, and Peter's like, I don't know this guy, and he says it 3 times. When Jesus comes back, he says to Peter, he says, do you love me? And Peter says, well, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he says, okay, well, feed my sheep. And then he says it again. He goes, do you love me? And Peter's like, yes, Lord, like I already said, yes, I love you. And he says, tend my sheep. And then he asks him a 3rd time, only the 3rd time he asks, he uses the word agape. Do you love me unconditionally? Do you love me like God? And what he's doing by asking him those 3 times is he's allowing Peter to clear up his karma for the experience that he had in denying him earlier. Love is the great healer and the great harmonizer. There's an institute called the Institute of HeartMath that has done experiments around love. How many of you have heard of HeartMath? Yes, a lot. And Johnny Woods is a heart math coach. And it's actually a very simple process. And I've taking you through it a million times actually in some of our meditations, which is basically we focus on our hearts and we feel it beating. In fact, we can even feel like as our blood is circulating, that our blood is like love moving through our bodies. But the idea behind the Institute of Heart Math is that we focus on our hearts and we are aware and conscious of them. And I'm actually going to take you through this toward the end of the talk. And then we think of something or someone who evokes love feelings in us easily. So that could be, your partner, it could be your child, it could be your dog, it could be nature, it could be God. And you just hold that experience, that person, that four-legged in your heart, and you just stay with it and lock it in. And then you think of something or bring something into your heart that you're having disharmony with. So if it's your body, your physical body, you would bring your body in. If you're having a challenge with another person, or you're stressed about money or your job, you bring that into your heart at the same time. And HeartMath has done many experiments with this and have found that it is very healing and works very well. Scott Peck said that love is the extension of one's self for another's spiritual growth. And I think that that could define friendship, couldn't it? Because we don't choose our family, but we choose our friends. And we extend ourselves for another's spiritual growth. One of the things that I find interesting about friendship is that our friends can introduce us to a world that we may know nothing about. Right? I mean, when you connect with another person, it's like you get to see the world through their eyes and you get to see their quirky sense of humor or, hear the experiences that they've had in life, like Doug coming back from India for 4 months, and I've been living vicariously through you, watching and your emails and looking at the photos. They're amazing. And I grew up in Chicago, as you know, and one of the interesting things for me was I had friends from all over the city. So I had my ballpark friends who were loud and rowdy and mostly drunk. I had my astrologer friends who were always, doing astrology. I had my yoga friends and we were meditating and chanting. I had my work friends. I worked at a grocery store. I had my school friends. I had my neighbors. I had all people from all different, I had my jazz friends. And I never threw a party because I didn't think that any of my friends would actually like each other because they were all so different and judgmental of each other that I thought, well, that probably is not going to work. When I went to ministerial school, it dawned on me about the first month of school that I was going to be with the same 35 people almost every day for 2 years. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to be with these same 30-some people, and what am I going to do with all these different sides of my personality that I've learned to, kind of spread around the city? And what I found was that I was embraced and seen for who I was by one community. And that was like a big awakening for me, to be held in that way, to be seen in that way. And that's what our friends do for us. In my years as a minister, I have been able to witness many profound and loving experiences of friendship. Back in the 90s, when the AIDS epidemic was pretty rampant, I did a lot of memorials and funerals, and we had one member in our congregation. Her name was Judith, and I think she was only like 35, and she had AIDS and was dying. And I remember going to the hospital to go and visit her, and her girlfriend had flown in from another state and taken time off from her job and her family to be there. And Judith just said to both of us, she said, I don't know how to do this. In other words, I don't know how to die. I don't know how to do this. And her friend just lovingly took her hand and she said, you know what? You don't have to. I'm going to go through it with you. I'm going to be here with you as you go through it. And I thought, what a loving, empowering thing to say. There was another woman in her 20s who had cancer, and I watched her girlfriends, she was in her 20s, and I watched her girlfriends surround her, and they rented some cabins up on Whidbey Island on Mutiny Bay. And they rented like 4 or 5 of them. And they got a hospital bed for her so she could see the ocean. And they had flowers and candles and music and all of her friends. And this went on for a month where they just were there all the time, just loving and supporting her and loving and supporting her. And that's what our friends do, and that is what they bring to us. Now, the thing about love is it's a risk. It's a really big risk to love. And I don't think it's an accident that the French word for heart is cœur, C-O-U-E-R, and it's the root word that we get our word of courage. Yes? It takes great courage to actually love. It takes courage when we put our heart into something, whether it be our jobs or our families or our passions. We put our heart into it. We put our courage into it. And in order to love, we must be willing to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable means being seen and knowing that we could have our hearts broken, right? I saw an interview with Sting, the singer, and he was talking about his marriage to Trudy. They've been married for a very long time. And, they said, so, how does this work? What do you do? And he said, what I know is that Trudy is my healer. She heals me. But she also has the power to destroy me. And I have the power to heal and destroy her as well. And is that not true? I mean, I know we like to listen to the songs on the radio about Eros, and we're sort of skipping through the tulips, and love is all wonderful and fine, and it is. But the truth is, all relationships come to an end. Whether they come to an end because they come to an end, or because they come to an end because one of us has to leave our body. Yeah? I mean, there's a day where one of us is going to leave. And so we come to that place of, do I really want to pour my heart out and be willing to be vulnerable? Aren't you glad you came today? It's such an uplifting. I think that Kahlil Gibran says it so well, and he speaks the truth about what love is. He says, when love beckons to you, follow him. You can see love just sort of calling you, and you think you're going to skip into the tulips. And the next line is, though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, oh, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. You get that image of just, oh yeah, I'm going to relax into love it. There's the sword, yeah. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. And even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends your heights and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so is he going to descend to your roots and shake them, and they're clinging to the earth. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart. And in that knowledge, become a fragment of life's heart. Become a fragment of God's heart. And then I love how he ends it when he says, but if in your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it's better for you to cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor into the seasonless world where you will laugh, but not all of your laughter, and you will cry, but not all of your tears. So love directs our course in life. Love takes us on a journey that is for our highest heights and shakes us to the core of our being. So love takes courage. Love is not for sissies, real love. So how do we practice love in community? And again, I think the Buddhists have it down because they have the practice of loving kindness. And it may seem simple, but I think it is quite profound. The traditional way to practice loving kindness is first with oneself, then with someone you know and love, then with a stranger, And then the real challenge comes with practicing loving kindness towards someone you don't like or you're in conflict with, whether it's personally or globally. And then finally, loving kindness towards all beings. I have been practicing loving kindness for probably since Richard and Maureen were here, because that was their strongest spiritual practice, among other things. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, you know how you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes and the gears start turning? I have found that if I practice loving kindness toward myself, I can let go of it and I can release it. And I have started to see the effects, because I think practicing loving kindness towards oneself is just as important as practicing it toward other people. Because if we don't feel it towards ourselves, how can we give it out? And an example that I have is, I noticed a difference in myself. So especially if you're hard on yourself and you're very critical of yourself, loving kindness is a practice that needs to be engaged in your life. Last year when I was in Chicago for Jordan's graduation, we rented an apartment and with the kids and friends. And I was alone. I had gotten there early and I was making breakfast, and I filled up the coffee pot. You know, and all coffee pots are different. I know they shouldn't be, but they're a little different. And so I'm making breakfast, and I hear this behind me, and I look, and I didn't fill the coffee pot up right. I don't know what I did, but the coffee pot was overflowing with the grounds, and it had already run down the counter, and it had traveled across half the kitchen floor. And I turned around, and I looked at that, and I thought, I guess I did that wrong. I need to clean it up. Now that's a big deal, because in the past, before practicing loving kindness, I would have been, what is wrong with me? It's a coffee pot. How hard is it to fill? I mean, anybody can fill a coffee pot, but look what you did. And in my mind, instead, it was just witnessing. Oh, there's coffee grounds and coffee leaking down the counter and onto the floor. I guess I'll have to clean it up and start over. These are very powerful teachings. So I want, and I know we're at noon, but I want to practice this with you right now. So I want to invite you to turn your attention within. And we begin with the system of heartmath. So I invite you to be conscious of your heart beating. And now I invite you to think of someone or something, or a four-legged or a winged, it's in your heart that evokes love. And just breathe that. And now I invite you to bring in a disharmonious situation that you are in right now, whether it be your physical body, your finances, a relationship. Bring that into your heart. And then just breathe and let it go. And so we're going to practice loving kindness first towards ourselves. I'll say the affirmation once, and then you can say it with me. May I be free from danger.
May I be free from danger.
May I have mental happiness.
May I have mental happiness.
May I have physical happiness.
May I have physical happiness.
May I have ease of well-being.
May I have ease of well-being.
And now I'm going to invite you to focus on someone you love, whether they're with you here or home or across the country or the world. May you be free from danger. May you have mental happiness.
May you have mental happiness.
May you have physical happiness.
May you have physical happiness.
May you have ease of well-being.
May you have ease of well-being.
And now I invite you to move to a troubled spot. We have the horrible atrocity in Afghanistan this week, so whether it be the family or the soldier or there's so many places that we could go. But I invite you to just pick one place, one people, And let's just say it together. May you be free from danger. I'll start over. May you be free from danger. May you have mental happiness. May you have mental happiness. And now physical. May you have physical happiness and ease of well-being. May you have ease of well-being. And now we focus on all beings. May all beings be free from danger. May all beings be free from danger. May all beings have mental happiness. May all beings have physical happiness. May all beings have ease of well-being. And then when you're ready, you can bring your awareness back to this time and place. It seems like such a simple teaching, but the truth is it is extremely profound. It's been practiced for thousands of years. The truth is there is no greater law, there is no greater force in the universe than love. All religions agree on this truth. Jesus demonstrated it fully in his last days. When he washed the feet of the disciples, he was saying, nobody's better than anybody else, and we each need to serve one another. Love one another as I have loved you. So perhaps a question we can ask each other is, how can I serve you? Love requires courage. It is not for sissies. It takes us to places we would never have gone without it. In closing, I want to share with you what Martin Luther King said about love. When I speak of love, I'm not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I'm not speaking of that force which is just emotional bosh. I'm speaking of that force which all the great religions have seen as a supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. Love is how we change the world. Love in spiritual community is a powerful force. It is the key that unlocks the door to the ultimate reality. And what is the ultimate reality? The ultimate reality is love. It's spirit, yeah? And love is who you are. Love is who we all are. Love is manifesting all the time. May we strive for agape. Not strive, may we run to ease with agape in our lives and in this manifestation. And I encourage you this week to practice loving kindness, to be gentle with yourself, because as we learn to be gentle and kind and compassionate to ourselves, guess what? It's really easy then for me to be loving and kind and compassionate to you. If you overflow a coffee pot, I'll go, let's just clean it up. Because if I'm not yelling at you, I'm not going to yell at you, right? We start with ourselves and the Spirit of God within, loving, kindness, compassion, and we bring that out into our world and community. Thank you.